of all others was the ultimate prize. It was a creature of terrifying power and beauty, dragged thousands of miles just to be killed. So how did the Romans build a vast, brutal industry just to capture the world's most dangerous predators? And what was the harrowing journey these tigers endured before their last, fatal appearance in the arena? Section 1, the Imperial Demand. The year is 80 AD. The Colosseum, the grandest amphitheater the world has ever seen, is finally finished, and Emperor Titus is about to unveil it with a show of unprecedented scale. For 100 straight days, Rome was drenched in blood and spectacle, a theatrical display of the empire's absolute power. And nothing symbolized that power more than conquering the natural world. The Roman people had seen lions from North Africa and bears from all over Europe. They'd witnessed elephants, crocodiles, and rhinos. But the tiger was different. It was a creature of myth and legend, hailing from the farthest, most mysterious corners of the known world, the dense forests of Persia, distant India, and Hyrcania near the Caspian Sea. Unlike the lion, which had once roamed parts of Greece and North Africa, the tiger was totally alien to the Romans. The first one ever recorded in Rome was a diplomatic gift to Emperor Augustus in 19 BC, a stunning curiosity brought by an Indian delegation. This rarity immediately made it the ultimate status symbol. To display a tiger, let alone have it fight and die in the arena, was a declaration of Rome's boundless reach. It sent a message to every citizen and every rival: there is no corner of the earth we cannot touch and no beast we cannot conquer. This imperial ego created a ravenous demand. Emperors like Titus, and later Trajan, who staged games featuring 11,000 animal deaths, needed a constant supply of exotic beasts to keep the public happy and project an image of godlike authority. And so, a massive and ruthless industry was born. An intricate network of hunters, traders, and shippers with just one purpose: to bring the striped ghosts of Asia to the heart of Rome. Section 2. The Industry of Capture. So how exactly do you catch a tiger? With great difficulty and even greater cruelty. Roman hunters and their local partners in places like Armenia knew that a head-on fight with a wild tiger, some of which, like those from the Caspian region, were larger than a Bengal, was basically suicide. So they developed cunning tactics that exploited the animal's most powerful instinct: its motherly love. One of the most common methods, described by ancient writers, was as clever as it was cruel: cub stealing. A hunter on a fast horse would find a tigress's den and snatch her cubs while she was out hunting. The enraged mother would, of course, give chase. As her roar got closer, the hunter would drop one of the cubs. The tigress, driven by instinct, would stop, gently pick up her young, and carry it back to the den. Then she'd resume the chase, only for the hunter to do it again, dropping another cub to buy himself more time. By the time the mother had secured all her rescued young, the hunter, and any cubs he'd decided to keep, was long gone, heading for the nearest port. This brutal efficiency turned the wilderness into a marketplace. Specialized hunters, both soldiers and civilians, set up trade routes that stretched for thousands of miles. From the Caucasus Mountains and the shores of the Caspian Sea, the captured tigers began a terrible journey. They were shoved into sturdy wooden cages, loaded onto ox-drawn wagons, and started a grueling overland trek. The death rate was staggering. Many cubs, torn from their mothers and stressed by confinement, died long before they ever saw the sea. The ones who survived were brought to major port cities and loaded onto ships, often alongside other cargo like grain or slaves. The exotic animal trade was just a lucrative side business, piggybacked onto existing commercial networks. The sea voyage was another nightmare. Cramped in dark, filthy holds, the animals suffered through rough seas, disease, and neglect. You can only imagine the terror of these creatures, stolen from their world and thrown into a terrifying, unnatural one. The survivors who finally arrived at the port of Ostia, just outside Rome, were the unlucky ones. Their real ordeal was just beginning. Section 3. The Arena of Death. When they arrived in Rome, the tigers weren't taken straight to the Colosseum. They were housed in a vivarium, which was basically a state-run menagerie. Here, they were kept and fed until they were large and ferocious enough for the games. These weren't modern zoos, they were holding pens for the condemned. Animal trainers, called venationes, didn't try to tame the beasts. They worked to agitate them, to make sure they'd provide a bloody show when the time came. The animals were starved and prodded to make them as aggressive as possible before being unleashed into the arena. On the day of the games, the tigers and countless other animals were paraded before the roaring crowds, a living display of the emperor's power. Then, they were lowered back down into the hypogeum, the labyrinth of tunnels and cells beneath the Colosseum floor. From there, a complex system of elevators and trapdoors would suddenly hoist them into the blinding sunlight and deafening noise of the arena. Their fate came in two main forms. First was the venatio, or wild beast hunt. A tiger might be pitted against other animals, lions, bears, or giant bulls, in a fight to the death. The poet Martial even wrote about seeing a captive tiger furiously tear a lion to pieces, a shocking event that proved the tiger's ferocity. More often, they faced the bestiarii, gladiators trained specifically to fight animals. And while some of these men were skilled hunters, the contest was often a farce. The terrified, disoriented animals stood little chance against armed men. The second and even more gruesome fate was damnatio ad bestias, condemnation to the beasts. This was a form of public execution. Unarmed criminals, prisoners of war, and religious dissenters were tied to stakes or just thrown into the arena. The starving tigers would be released upon them, and the crowd would watch as people were mauled to death. It was justice served as entertainment, a terrifying display of the state's absolute power over life and death. For the tiger, it was the final violent act in a life defined by capture and cruelty. CT. This vast, brutal system of capture and slaughter was a defining feature of Roman entertainment for centuries. It tells us so much about their society, their values, and how they saw the natural world. If you find this dark chapter of history as fascinating as we do, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the ancient world. Let us know in the comments what other parts of the Roman games you'd like to see us explore next. Conclusion. The Roman Empire's obsession with spectacle had a devastating and permanent cost. The demand for thousands of animals for the arenas contributed to the decline of species across the empire and beyond. The Caspian tiger, a likely victim of these hunts, is now extinct. While their numbers were certainly depleted by the Roman games, their final extinction in the 20th century was cemented by modern hunting and habitat loss. The Romans may have seen the tiger as a symbol of their power to conquer the wild, but its story is also a haunting symbol of their capacity for breathtaking cruelty. It reminds us that the grand spectacles of history often hide a dark and bloody truth. The roar of a tiger in the Colosseum wasn't a celebration of Roman might, but the dying cry of a magnificent creature sacrificed for the entertainment of an empire.